Good afternoon, Chaos. This is Kalatos, your friendly Legions leader here. In Slack a few weeks ago, somebody had asked if maybe we could see some actual character strategy, and I mentioned I was looking forward to doing some faction reviews and kind of walking people through how I would put together some groups in different factions, similar to the video I did for the Imperial Troopers. So I thought, what better time than now to go ahead and get started. And with all of the added attention on this one particular faction, why not start with the Sith? Now, the Sith are a very, very powerful group here. In my personal opinion, one of the best factions from top to bottom. Even the worst Sith is still a very strong character. So they've got a lot of power, a lot of strength, some phenomenal synergy, and I'd like to go through that. So for this particular video, I'm going to go through each individual Sith, kind of go through my thoughts on them, where they fit into maybe the current meta, and possibly even in raids, and what I would do to mod them for different aspects of the game. Now, you'll see I currently have Darth Vader, Darth Sion, and Darth Traya favorited, so they just happen to be at the front. But I'm going to go ahead and start with Darth Vader. Darth Vader has been in since the very beginning. He was a very strong character for the first probably year and a half that you could only get from doing achievements. He was not farmable for a very long time, but then with the advent of ships, he was added in as a farmable character, and his Zeta leadership, inspiring through fear, became super popular, and he had his time in the arena. Now his ship is still top-notch, and he still is a leader that a lot of people use for the Rancor raid, and he can actually solo the heroic AAT raid with the proper group. Now, with his current rework, he has an extra ability, No Escape, that has a Zeta on it, and some of his stats were adjusted. So he's a very, very strong character. And just looking at some of his stats, he has really high health, he has fairly high protection, though like the vast majority of the Sith, he suffers from the need for a lot of potency and being very, very slow. Now, for Darth Vader in particular, that weakness was addressed with his No Escape ability. So it ends up giving him +8 speed until the end of the encounter for each of the following: an Empire ally, a Sith ally, a Jedi enemy, or a Rebel enemy. So they really tried to enforce, and I don't necessarily enforce, they tried to encourage using Darth Vader with Empire and Sith to kind of increase that synergy that they've had. And so he makes a very strong counter to Jedi and Rebels, which is super awesome in the dark side territory battle. Now, with all that stuff there, in Arena, he does definitely have a place right now. And in Arena, you want him to be as fast as possible. Now, in most aspects of the game, you probably will want him quick. But in PvE content, it is just as, if not more important, to make sure you get crit damage on his triangle. See, I only have offense. But the whole idea behind Darth Vader is to stack up as many dots as possible with Force Crush and other abilities. He also has an ability block on his Terrifying Swing. But everything about Darth Vader is building up to a Culling Blade. Now, this attack cannot be evaded with the Omega. It grants 100% turn meter on a killing blow, and then it deals additional damage for each negative effect that is on the opponent. So the more negative effects they are, the more damage Culling Blade does. So everything about his kit is building and climaxing to a Culling Blade killing blow, which is why you really want to get high offense and high crit damage, and if you can, even crit chance. But he also happens to run a very, very low potency chance. So your mod choices of Darth Vader are very, very open. It's never going to be a bad idea to have a potency cross with him. Potency cross, crit damage triangle, and either speed or offense arrow. But you could use speed sets, you could use crit damage, crit chance sets, you could use potency sets. Really, Darth Vader can use them all. Personally, I think he needs more potency than anything else in PvE, but that is just a personal opinion. Others will tell you different. Now, next up for my list, we have Darth Sion, who is an incredible tank that has just come out. You'll see I have mine at 7 stars. I've remodded him a little bit. He's almost gear 10, and I actually did put a Zeta on Darth Sion already. Now, Darth Sion is completely arena viable at 3 stars. So even if you don't want to spend any money, or you just want to get a $10 pack to get him up to 4 stars, he is extremely viable. So I would strongly recommend getting Darth Sion and building him up for anybody that uses Sith, because he himself does not have a ton of synergy with Sith, but there are a lot of characters that could benefit from him being there. Now, Darth Sion has a very unique buff called Pain. Now, Pain is instrumental in every single one of his abilities. And so his basic Dark Rage deals physical damage and inflicts pain for 3 turns. Now, here's an interesting one. If the target already has pain, dispel all debuffs on Sion. So it's almost like he has a personal R2-D2's combat analysis built into his basic ability. So if he attacks anybody that has pain, he clears all of his own debuffs, which is a huge deal once you get that Omega on there. So that is going to be nice, and you'll see just how much pain he does put out. The thing that makes Darth Sion viable at only 3 stars is his ability known as Torment. Now you'll see this ability deals physical damage to all enemies and dispels all buffs. And then he inflicts pain on all enemies for 3 turns. Now, this ability dispels through Foresight. I do not know if that is a bug right now or if that's intended, but even if an enemy has Foresight, he dispels all buffs on them. Now, I think it's because of the way this is worded. He deals physical damage to all enemies and then dispels. So if they don't have Foresight, he does damage. If they do have Foresight, they evade the physical damage, and then he applies or dispels all debuffs. And then after all the debuffs are dispelled, including Tenacity Up, he inflicts pain on all enemies. Now, with the Omega, this ability reduced the cooldown by 1 for each enemy without pain. So let's say you happen to use Torment and every single enemy resists the pain. This ability is usable the very next turn. So that is awesome. Oh, and look, this attack can't be evaded. So it is hitting through Foresight, and because it hits, I think there's something interesting going on there, and I don't know if that's working as intended, but it's an interesting fact to point out. But this single ability, like Nihilus's Annihilate, makes him super viable even at 3 stars. Now, Break Will is another thing that is phenomenal, and I've had it crit for 28, 29, 30k already, and he's only gear 9 and a tank. So this ability deals physical damage and inflicts pain on target enemy for 3 turns. This attack cannot be evaded. If the target already has pain, this attack deals 100% more damage, and Sion recovers 35% protection. So this is a very, very hard-hitting ability that you really want to be able to use on targets that have pain. And if you're using him correctly, everybody will have pain all the time. So really, you can use this to snipe low health targets, low armor targets like Emperor Palpatine, Mother Talzin, Raid Han. Like, this is an ability that can be used to take out any of them. Now, the really interesting part and the really fun part about Darth Sion is his Held by Hatred. Now, this ability will dispel all debuffs on himself. He immediately recovers 100% health and gains 100% turn meter, and then he gains Hatred until he is defeated, which cannot be dispelled or prevented. Hatred is basically Bounty Hunter's Resolve, for those of you who use Boba Fett. Now, this ability starts on cooldown, and you'll see it has a 15-turn cooldown. However, whenever Sion inflicts pain, reduce the cooldown of this ability by 1. So, he uses Dark Rage once, Torment once, and Break Will once. That's 3 turns, and if he inflicts pain on all possible enemies, all of them, you've reduced his turn down by, or reduced the cooldown of this by 7 already. So this can get used quickly. Now, what's even cooler about Hatred is it does give him a revive when he gets defeated with 100% health and 100% turn meter, but it also gives him plus 100% defense, plus 100% offense, and plus 25% critical chance. So if the opponent lets him build up Held by Hatred and gets him to use it, this man is a wrecking ball in any aspect of the game. Now, once he gets there, he can tear through stuff. So my first impressions was he needs potency and he needs it bad. After playing around with him some more, speed. I mean, this guy is one of the very few tanks you want as fast as possible. And he has a somewhat decent natural potency level, but it can't hurt to get some more on him. So the cross, you want to put potency on. Now, Lord of Pain is where you find his Zeta ability. Now, without a Zeta, Lord of Pain gives Sion 100% defense and 100% tenacity against enemies with pain, who he's inflicting on all the time. And at the start of each enemy's turn, if they have pain, Sion gains taunt until the end of that turn. And when allied Darth Traya or Darth Nihilus are critically hit, reduce Held by Hatred's cooldown by 1. So he has some really good synergy with Darth Traya and Darth Nihilus. If they're critically hit, that Held by Hatred's cooldown reduced by 1. So it's a race to get him there, just like it's a race to get Darth Nihilus' Annihilate off cooldown. And you'll see, against enemies that have pain, he basically shrugs off anything they do to him with his increased defense and tenacity. Now, his Zeta ability is incredible, and it doesn't seem like it at first. His Zeta ability, at the end of each turn, Sion inflicts pain for 3 turns on enemies who damaged him. So if you open up with a Torment, and he gets out there super quick, he's going to inflict pain on everybody. That means 5 pains. The cooldown of Held by Hatred is reduced by 5, and then everybody on that team gets a turn. Let's say 4 out of the 5 hit him. His Held by Hatred is reduced by 4 turns, the cooldown, because his Lord of Pain Zeta will inflict pain on anybody who hits him. So by his second turn, you could, in theory, reduce the cooldown of Held by Hatred by 9. So you could, in theory, get his Held by Hatred up by his 3rd turn. So he's going to be awesome. And if you can live long enough to get that Held by Hatred and then keep that buff, oh, watch out, everybody. So Darth Sion, get him, gear him. He's awesome if you run Sith. Now, I don't have a whole lot to say from experience about Darth Traya, other than she looks amazing and can fit anywhere in Sith. Now, aside from that, I'm going to kind of go through the rest of these Sith really quickly and kind of go through my impressions. Darth Nihilus, he has 2 Zetas, Lord of Hunger, his leader ability, and Wound in the Force. For those of you who don't know, Darth Nihilus can dispel on basic. He does Drain Force, which reduces or increases enemy cooldowns. And then he has Annihilate, which is an insta-kill on an 8-turn cooldown. Darth Nihilus, you only need to get him as fast as possible. And hardly any other stat matters. Okay, quickly as possible so you can get to Annihilate as fast as possible. Drain Force and Ceaseless Craving. Really, it's not about the damage he does. It's about his abilities and what they can do. His Dispel on basic is nice, increasing cooldowns is impressive, and Annihilate is just Annihilate. I mean, to instantly take out anyone in the team, really awesome. Now, if you have a Zeta available and you're using Darth Nihilus, give him Wound in the Force. It gives everybody on the other team health down whenever they take a turn. So it's great, it's awesome, and it works really well. And this makes it easier to kill everybody. If you are using him in the raid as a leader, which you'll see I strongly suggest, a Zeta on his leader ability would be nice. Because his leader ability strips all protection from any Sith and adds the amount taken out to his health, or to that particular Sith's health. Now without the Zeta, all Sith allies gain 60% offense and 100% health steal, and they cannot critically hit. So in the past it worked out really well against Chirrut. It worked out well against Rex Leads. It worked out well against General Kenobi and Zeta Barris. But even now, it's still nice. And in Phase 1 of the Sith Triumvirate raid, he's a phenomenal leader because with his Zeta, all the Sith allies get 60% offense and 150% health steal. So adding that plus the base plus 25% offense that all Sith get, they're basically doing double damage when they're in a Nihilus group. So really, really good. So Nihilus, both Zetas, super useful. Next we have Emperor Palpatine, who recently got a new rework. Palpatine is super squishy, but very useful. Like a lot of other Sith, he is naturally fairly slow. I mean, he's not the fastest character, he's not the slowest character, he's kind of in the middle. And his potency is not as low as other Sith. His potency is very nice. But his basic Lightning Strike, deal damage, and then shocks the enemy. And then he gains turn meter for every shocked enemy. Power of the Dark Side is first special. AoE stun, which is nice. If anybody had shock from his Lightning Strike, they are automatically stunned for 2 turns, which again is very, very nice. And then after he uses, all allies gain offense up, so it's a nice opener in PvE and PvP. His second special, Let the Hate Flow. Every single unit loses 5% health, and Palpatine recovers health equal to 50% of the total amount lost. So, really, really strong. He basically goes up to full health whenever you use it. He also gains 50% turn meter for each shocked enemy. So that's nice. If you have 2 enemies that are shocked and you use Let the Hate Flow, he gets full health and full turn meter. And then he gets health steal up for 1 turn, just in case he wasn't healed to full. And it also gives everybody in his team health steal up. Now, Emperor Palpatine's leader ability just got reworked, and it is by far the strongest Sith lead in PvP in the arena, bar none. Because the Sith's biggest weaknesses were their speed. They are all super slow. They need a ton of potency, and there's no cleansers. Now, Emperor Palpatine does not address the no cleansers. However, Empire and Sith allies have plus 35% potency and plus 35% max health, which is nice. But like all dark side, Sith can suffer from lack of healing. So his ability, or his leader ability, is whenever a Sith ally inflicts a debuff during their turn, they recover 20% health, which is nice. A lot of these Sith, they have AoE abilities that do a debuff, so a lot of them under an Emperor Palpatine lead can heal themselves to full in one turn, so it's super nice. But the part of the rework that makes him so strong is right here. When a debuff on an enemy expires, Empire and Sith allies gain 5% turn meter. Now, this is very, very strong, and combined with a Darth Vader, works out really well and can almost guarantee your team going first. This expiration does count for when an enemy dies and they had debuffs on them. So if a debuff is on an enemy that dies, it counts as the debuff expiring. So the Sith can get a lot of turn meter from the Emperor of the Galactic Empire leader ability. So he is the best leader for the Sith. Now his unique Crackling Doom is nice. It has a Zeta, but my personal opinion is that it's not super nice. Now without the Zeta, when Palpatine is active at the start of each enemy turn, they take damage equal to 20% of their 20% max out for the following. They are a Jedi or they are a Rebel. This damage can't defeat enemies. So basically, he's made to defeat Jedi and Rebels, which is nice. Now, the Zeta ability basically adds 50% protection, and when he inflicts shock, he gains 5% max protection. I don't see this being super useful unless you're playing him under a Thrawn leadership, or you have Thrawn with him, who actually has a protection regen mechanic. So that is fairly nice. Now, Emperor Palpatine in PvP, you want him to be as fast as possible. In raids, you could go more potency, crit chance, crit damage, instead of speed. So it's really up to you on how much you want to switch out mods. Next is Savage Opress. Savage is a very, very simple kit, but he is an incredibly strong Sith, and he is the only Sith that is a cleanser. Now, he does all his cleansing through his unique Brute, which you have to have a... Nope. I lied. You don't have to have the Zeta ability for his cleanse. Whenever he takes damage, he gains offense up and defensive up, and a chance to gain turn meter. At the end of his turn, Savage dispels all debuffs on a random other Sith ally and gains those debuffs for one turn. It's nice. It's the only true dispel that the Sith have for somebody else. And what's even better is the Zeta on this ability. When he gets crit, he cleanses himself, and he's guaranteed turn meter gain. So Savage is a very strong Sith, but unfortunately he is overpowered by a lot of other really strong Sith. So his basic, you really just want to use Staggering Blow a lot, deal physical damage to target with a 3% chance to inflict offense down. Nothing exciting. However, his overpower is nice. Deal physical damage to target enemy and gain crit chance up and crit damage for 3 turns on a finishing blow. If the target has 50% health or below, this attack deals massive damage and can't be evaded. So if there's an enemy below 50% health, he does 99,999 damage. There's no way it can be avoided. So he's nice there to finish off stuff, and actually he pairs really well with a couple other Sith that hit through protection. Next we come to Darth Maul, who definitely had his time in the meta for a little while. Through his leader ability, Dancing Shadows. And you'll see Dancing Shadows without the meta, or without the Zeta, all Sith allies gain 20% evasion and 20% turn meter whenever they evade or are critically hit. So the evasion turn meter is nice. However, his Zeta ability gives them stealth and then whenever they're critically hit or they evade, and they gain advantage for 2 turns whenever stealth expires. So that's nice. And if there's an enemy that has taunt, they ignore the evasion from this ability. So they actually worked in there that if you had a taunting Sith, it could still work. Now, Darth Maul, in and of himself, is fairly fragile. Now, you'll see mine is only gear 10 right now, but he has 11,000 health and 12,000 protection. So, of all the Sith, he might actually have the lowest health and protection totals, and he is incredibly slow. Like, you'll see I have 10 speed from mods, and he's still only at 104. So Darth Maul suffers the most from this slowness that a lot of Sith have. So really, speed is the best option for him, no matter what you're doing. His basic doesn't do a whole lot. It just deals damage. And if it's a finishing blow, he gains turn meter. His special ability inflicts an AoE daze, so it's not too bad. The best thing about Darth Maul really is his unique here, and he gains 20% max health and gains health equal to the amount of damage that he deals, and then potency equal to 0.3% of his max health. And then Darth Maul gains bonuses as people die. So really, Darth Maul is a character made to get better as more enemies die. But unfortunately, there really isn't a game mode or a part of the game where that can really stack up to good numbers. So he's plagued. In my opinion, Darth Maul is one of the worst Sith out there. His only saving grace is his leader ability is so good to some other Sith. But yeah, to me, he's the bottom of the barrel for Sith. And again, like I said, mod him for speed. There really is no other thing that he could use, or another thing that would benefit him near as much as speed, because he is so incredibly slow. Next, we have Sith Trooper. My absolute favorite tank, except possibly Darth Sion now. Sith Trooper is very, very basic in his abilities. He has Disruptor Blast, which deals physical damage, and a 75% chance to inflict defense down. If the target was already debuffed, ignore their protection, which is nice. Crimson Barrage, deals physical damage to all enemies, with a 70% chance to inflict offense down. And then he gains protection up, equal to 5% for each debuffed enemy. This attack always ignores protection. So Sith Trooper ignores a lot of protection, which is nice. And he got a very, very small rework in his Vikings Legacy Omega. And Sith Trooper always has plus 100% defense, which is super nice. But whenever a Sith ally uses a special ability or falls below 50% health, Sith Trooper gains defense up for 2 turns. If he already had defense up, he gains taunt. If he already had taunt, he gains retribution. The Sith Trooper gains defense up and taunt for 2 turns at the start of each encounter. So they brought him into the modern tank age with a pre-taunt, which makes him super strong. And you'll see he has plus 100% defense in general, and his defense is already at 42% damage reduction, which is phenomenal. And plus he starts with defense up, so he basically gets 150% defense up as long as you have a Sith using a special ability, which is pretty much always. So Sith Trooper is one of the only ones in this group that he really has to be in a group with other Sith. None of the other Sith we've shown, Darth Vader, Darth Sion, Nihilus, Palpatine, Savage, they all can work almost as well in other groups. Darth Maul, obviously you want him to lead Sith, but Sith Trooper is the first one where he really needs a group of 4 or more Sith, because you want to just use Viking's Legacy to stack up his defense, retribution, and taunt. You'll see my mods are all tenacity and defense, because he has such a high health and protection pool to begin with. You really just want him to be able to keep shooting back as people hit him, and not take damage just in case he gets stunned or ability blocked or something like that. So yeah, my personal favorite. Next we have the Sith Marauder. Another real basic Sith with a simple kit. Strength through passion, deal physical damage to target, and inflict offense down. Victory through power, which is killer in the Sith Triumvirate raid if you get the chance to use him. It does deal physical damage to target enemy and grant all allies potency up for 2 turns. If this attack scores a critical hit, reduce the target's max health by 15%. So that's nice. In PvE, or in PvP and in the arena, he can reduce health of tanks like Shore Trooper or General Kenobi. He can also reduce the health of healers like Barriss Offee, or basically anybody that has healing or health based effects. Like, he's really good to use against them and use his special on. Now, his unique Sith Marauder has plus 10% defense, plus 10% health steal, and plus 10% tenacity for each buff on all characters, whether enemy or ally. And Sith Marauder also has plus 2 crit chance, plus 2 offense, and plus 2 potency for each debuff on all characters. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. And what's even cooler is if you pair him with Sith Trooper or other countering teams, Sith Marauder gains 20% turn meter whenever an enemy uses an ability outside of their turn. So, I'm sorry, not an ally Sith Trooper, but maybe an enemy Sith Trooper, or enemy BB-8, an enemy, anybody that counters. So this guy can get lots of turn meter very quickly. You'll see I went straight crit chance because I want him to be reducing the health of other teammate or of other guys. So he's very strong, I think, and he's putting up some really good numbers in the Sith Triumvirate raid. Now, I would say he works best with Darth Vader because of his unique, that he gets increased crit and offense for all debuffs on other characters. So he's really strong there, and you really want to pair him with lots of debuffing characters like Darth Vader. Next we have Sith Assassin. Sith Assassin is, like Sith Trooper, best in a group of all or even most Sith, because she uses Dark Shroud, which is nice. Now, her basic exploit weakness: deal physical damage to target enemy, inflict evasion down for 2 turns, and gain offense up for 2 turns. If the target was already debuffed, gain stealth for 2 turns. If Sith Assassin already had stealth, ignore target's protection. So basically, if you hit somebody, does damage, give them offense down. If they're debuffed, she gains stealth. If she already had stealth, you ignore their protection. So if she stays stealth the entire time, she's ignoring protection the entire time. Very nice. Now, Dark Shroud is really what she's used for in a group, even though she can't hit through protection. This is a self-dispel for Sith Assassin and gives her stealth and foresight. Okay, if she already had stealth, gain speed up and tenacity up for 2 turns. So she can get a lot of self buffs. Now, Sith allies gain 12% turn meter for each buff on her. So she is super awesome to speed up these slow Sith. When using Dark Shroud, she could have up to 5 or 6 buffs on her. So then using Dark Shroud, she'll give everybody 60 to 72% turn meter. Very, very nice. Now, Electrocute is awesome. Deal physical damage to target enemy and inflict stun for 1 turn. That's the basic here. If Sith Assassin already had stealth, dispel all buffs, deal extra damage for each effect dispelled and each living Sith, and ignore target's protection. So if this crits, you're looking at 25 to 30% damage that ignores protection. I have literally seen Sith Assassin one-shot Stormtrooper Han, Emperor Palpatine, Raid Han, CLS. Like, this is fantastic. And Sith Assassin has great synergy with Sith Trooper and Savage Opress, because they all hit through protection, or Sith Assassin, Sith Trooper hit through protection, and then Savage comes and overpowers. Very, very strong. So you really want to use her with a Sith group. Now, the last two are the two that I have not looked at or used much. Darth Sidious and Count Dooku. They're with Darth Maul and what I think the bottom of the barrel. Darth Sidious has been around since day one. He was very strong in the beginning, but he's just super weak right now. So little health and protection. Though with a Zeta, he does get some more survivability. His Zeta recovers max health and gains turn meter whenever anybody's defeated. In addition, he gets plus 35% evasion and plus 50% potency, and he gains max health equal to his potency percentage. So that's nice. It's good. I would definitely personally find other things to Zeta first, but it's up to you. This guy you would want to mod for speed and potency, I would guess, because most of his damage comes from dots, which he puts out on demoralizing blows. He can put up to 3 damage over time effects and expose on every enemy, so it's not too bad. So you really want to pump up his potency to make sure he lands those. His basic, not a big deal, inflict healing immunity for 3 turns with a chance to ignore defense. So potency on Darth Sidious. He also has a leader ability, but it's pretty much terrible anymore. Nobody uses it because there are others that are so much better. Count Dooku was the meta leader for a while because he gives evasion up and everybody gains offense for when they evade, but he has really fallen out of favor because his basic does so little damage. His Force Lightning and his basic, he does a lot of stuns. Like, Count Dooku is really best to control the battlefield, because with his unique, he has 100% counter chance, he gains a lot of turn meter, and then his basic can stun, can ability block, and his special can shock and stun. So really, if you're fighting a really annoying team and you want to stun and disrupt them, use Count Dooku. And his Zeta ability gives him some extra counter damage, and he can recover protection and get critical hit immunity, but really he's still just too squishy. He dies too easily, and he doesn't hit for enough damage compared to the rest of the Sith that are out there. So I know that was a lot, but that's kind of the rundown of the Sith. Now, if you want to build some teams, I have a couple of setups. Whoops, go ahead and claim that. I have a couple setups for the Sith to kind of show you guys some possible groups you could put together. Now, for arena squads, really these top 5 that I have are your best options. And really, a lot of them hinge on Emperor Palpatine, Darth Sion, and Darth Nihilus. Darth Vader is a really good choice, but he is not 100% necessary, though he is very, very good. The Sith Trooper is a great tank to have with him. You could really use Emperor Palpatine, Darth Vader, Darth Nihilus, Sith Trooper, and any, like, General Kenobi, Short Trooper, Grand Admiral Thrawn. Any one of them can fill that 5th spot very nicely. But any of these options are good choices for PvE. Now this last group I have here, I have not used it, but I'm fairly confident it would go well. Like I said, the Assassin fills that role Darth Vader does in speeding everybody up. And then because Sith Assassin and Sith Trooper hit through protection, just throw in Savage and overpower guys. Like, I think that group has a lot of potential. Now, if you want to just try something different in Arena, or if you want to go hit the raids, this Darth Nihilus led group I think is probably one of the strongest ones for raid content. And obviously Darth Vader has a very, very strong lead ability as well. You'll see here I have him with a Darth Vader, Darth Nihilus, and a Sith Marauder. That would require a Zeta on Darth Vader's lead and a Zeta on Darth Sidious unique. But really you could fill in any dot type character or even a tank or two in there to kind of fill out the rest. If you want a tank that applies dots, Gamorrean Guard could fit, though not many people use him or have really taken the time to gear him. Captain Phasma works well in there. Boba Fett works well in there. Tusken Shaman works well in there. Lots of choices. And then if you want to go with, say, a Darth Maul group for whatever reason, I really think those four are the best, with some type of tank or Kylo Ren in the last spot. So lots of choices for Sith, lots of potential group combinations, and really you're free to do whatever you want, follow my advice or not. But I'd recommend checking out one of these groups, see what you think. These 5 possible Emperor Palpatine groups if you want to use them for Arena, or some of these on the bottom if you want to use them for the raid. Hopefully this Sith introduction helps somebody. It's a lot of information there. I know it's a lot of stuff, but I'm sure somebody could use it, somebody could benefit from it. And look forward to some other faction reviews in the future. They may not be as in-depth in the Sith, because I know a lot more about the Sith than others, but hopefully you guys know more about the Sith after this and can use your knowledge to build strong groups and tear up the Sith Triumvirate raid. Now, with all that said, I'm out of breath. I'm ready for bed. I will see you later, Legions and Chaos. Have a wonderful evening. Until next time, this is Sakelatos signing off, saying good night and good luck.